Welcome to Stories and Songs, a series of interviews featuring inspirational musicians from the world of jazz and improvisation. My name is Andrea Keller, and I'm thrilled to be talking to Linda Mahano today. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of yours.
Oh, thank you, and I yours. Well, I've got three questions for you today. The first one is, what have been the pivotal events in your musical journey?
That's a hard question because I think sometimes pivotal events for me maybe a bit more of a slow burn, as opposed to one moment, in my musical path or something. And I think it ranges a little bit. I mean, there are certain moments and certain clicking moments that I've had, throughout my career, but a lot of pivotal events have been just kind of generally things that have happened over time, and I think that's something to remember for up and coming students and musicians, is that not everything happens kind of like that, and not everything is just a click. It may click maybe 5 years later or something when you look back on a culmination of a few events, but it's not always like that, like an immediate shift. It may take time, and then you look back and you're like, oh wow, that really changed my perspective over time, or that really improved my playing over time, or my musicianship. So I think that's important to remember. I can describe a few kind of moments, smaller moments, and some more of a slow burn kind of pivotal events. But I can say that pivotal events, such as being able to play with certain people who I've looked up to for a long time, have been quite important to me. And to be able to kind of step up to the plate, even if it's someone that you've been in awe of, or that you've studied quite a lot, and being able to have faith in yourself, that you can bring yourself to the table, something of value, and that it's you, and that you don't necessarily have to be the other bass player that played with this person for 20 years, so that for me has been pivotal, and I'm proud of that. Certain instances, being able to play with Pat Metheny, even though I transcribed him for many years, and a lot of bass players who played with him, and learned a lot of his tunes, and I think I am very grateful to have the opportunity to be able to step up to the plate in those situations. Pat Metheny, Katie Barron, Dave Douglas, Joe Lovano, people I would check out while living in Perth in a practice room at WAPA, So there were those pivotal events. There have been moments that have really made me rethink just my own values in music and why I play it. I remember the first time I got to play with Kenny Barron in Minneapolis. I was so nervous. I just wanted to do a good job. I wanted to kill at it. I'm like, I want to represent. I want to really do a good job. And it's funny because it's like, of course, it's totally natural to want that. But then when it's time to play, it's kind of a different thing, and something that I learned in that moment was just kind of watching Kenny play. And Kenny's the most relaxed person you'll ever meet. He's very zen, and his feel is so sophisticated and relaxed. And we were playing Body and Soul, and I remember we started, and I was like, man, I've listened to his version with Charlie Hayden so many times on the album Night and the City, and just kind of thinking, okay, I got to really play this well, and I was like, I played Body and Soul a million times, and here's Kenny just playing the most beautiful lines and being so relaxed. And it was just a moment in my mind that was like, I was almost doing a disservice just concentrating on myself and what I wanted to bring, and just my own ego, that I was like, this isn't helping. I just have to give myself to the moment and have fun with it, and bring what I can, you know. So that was kind of one moment, you know, amongst many that kind of have made me kind of step away from my ego a little bit, you know. Yeah, for sure.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And what obstacles have you had to overcome during your musical life, and how have you dealt with them?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we all have to overcome various obstacles, and I think you learn a lot through this, and you learn a lot about yourself and how to be resilient and how to overcome, you know. And I'll just kind of briefly kind of run through a few things. And um, I mean, even initially becoming a professional musician wasn't easy, you know, coming out of high school, and my parents thought I was crazy, especially to go into jazz music when I'd been primarily a classical bassoonist and pianist, you know, and I wanted to go study jazz bass. And looking back, you know, they were kind of rightfully worried in some ways, you know, in that I had a garage rock band in my high school, and I played some in some jazz bands, you know, and some musicals around town. But that was kind of the extent of my experience. And going into a career like this was, you know, for traditionally Malaysian Chinese parents, this was quite a shock, and it wasn't easy to kind of, you know, for them to get over it. Really, you know, it took me years actually. But you know, a few things that kind of got me through it was just my own faith, I guess, and my own drive to kind of not prove myself, but know that I really wanted to learn more about this. You know, it was kind of unknown territory, but it was unknown territory that I was really interested in, and I was totally immersed in it to the point where I was a little bit obsessed over it. You know, it was a lot of hours in the practice room, a lot of hours listening and trying to understand how to improvise, how to play this music. And I think sometimes when you have that gut feeling of that this is what you want, you can get there despite, you know, other people that may tell you differently, but at the same time, still having some sort of um, uh, calculated thoughts behind it, you know, like, okay, realistically, what are my steps? You know, what am I going to do? And trying to be realistic as well, you know. And that meant, okay, well, then I'm kind of on my own with this. I gotta figure out what are the steps to kind of get from A to B. Well, I want to be a better bass player. You know, okay, I want to be a better upright player. So I'm gonna shed this and take these steps. And it's like, okay, well, I know how to do this, but I don't know how to do that. How am I going to get there? You know, and then eventually one thing led to another, and it's like, I knew I wanted to go to New York and study in New York. So how am I going to get there? Well, I have to audition somehow, but I actually have to get to New York somehow, you know, and actually stepping back and, you know, writing a list of what you need to accomplish to get to your goals, not just having a kind of a haphazard faith necessarily. So there's that combination of having faith, but then being calculated about it and being smart about it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have a motto or a personal philosophy that guides you? Or is there any particular advice? I mean, you've already given us some great advice, but is there any other advice that you'd like to share?
Yeah, yeah, a few things. Stay strong, stay resilient, you know. Like I said, obstacles, they can make you stronger, and it's important to know your self-worth and whatever that means to you, however you need to go about that, you know, try and figure out ways. And then I think that a lot of that involves mental health, you know, being able to, you know, whether it means journaling or meditating or anything that you can do to kind of process your emotions and your thoughts in a way that you can stay resilient and stay true to yourself. I think that that's kind of really important. And for younger musicians coming up, you know, yeah, these are tricky times, you know. But there have been a lot of tricky times for musicians and artists in the past, you know, And I think back at, some incredible musicians and composers who had to live through world wars, and some who were even drafted, and I count myself very lucky, to be able to have the time to practice and not have to go, and train or be shipped out somewhere, risk my life. And, so be grateful for what you have. But, know that it is tricky out there, and you kind of have to be resourceful. And I think that's what I love about this music so much, is that I think generally musicians who improvise have to be resourceful. You have to work together. You have to think on your feet a little bit, and in this industry where, it's a little different now with streaming and the way artists make money, we have to think a little bit outside of the box. So, be open-minded, think outside the box, be resourceful, learn how to problem solve. Not everything is clear, kind of cookie cutter, presented to you in a digestible way. You kind of have to figure things out a lot on your own, and not everything is the same for every person. Every person's path is quite different, their path is whatever they deem as success. Then also I would say don't be afraid of don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of criticism. I think when you have a strong sense of self-worth, then you can kind of be able to step back when it comes to criticism and figure out what of it do you want to take to better yourself, or what of it is just not useful, So, and in this age of social media and how everyone has a voice, everyone can make a YouTube comment, no matter how amateur and inexperienced they may be. You kind of have to navigate that yourself. People are always going to have their opinion about you, and if you can stay strong, I think that's really important.
Well said. Well, thank you. Could you finally nominate a song or an album that's particularly important to you or significant, and maybe tell us just a little bit about it, because we look forward to listening to your music and having a connection to it.
Yeah, sure. Well, my most recent album is an album called Aventurine, and this is a bit of a slow burn album in the sense that some of these compositions that they took quite a while to develop over some years, and just in relation to what we're talking about, pivotal events, and this was something that kind of grew from over a decade, and some of the songs are a little bit more recent and have evolved along the way. And there's a lot of string writing in there, featuring string quartet from New York City, and the title Aventurine is it's a type of quartz which represents evolution and creativity. And I think in this age of wanting to have everything so quickly and instantly, that's kind of my donation in some ways, of just thinking of a slower burn over time, and I'm proud of some of the compositions on there, and the improvisation between some of the musicians. I'm very lucky to have a string quartet that can improvise as well, and be flexible to that. And I've tried to work hard on my bass playing in general. There was a time when I just wanted to be like a solid side person, like Larry Grenadier, Christian McBride, someone that would just hold it down. And this one's a bit more focused, still on that aspect, but also there's a lot more composition and intricately written stuff as well.
Fabulous. Well, thank you. We look forward to listening to it, and congratulations on the award that it just won last night, actually, at the Art Music Awards.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for today. You've said so many really inspiring things, and we're very grateful. Thanks a lot, Linda.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks.